Right guys, hello, another video for you all. Today it's these portable projectors, or more specifically the Elfin Flip. Now we've bought it with our own money, we have decided to keep it, but I want to do the video I wish I could have watched before I bought it. So many questions I had about the projector that I couldn't find answers to online, so yeah, I've had to suck it and see, buy the projector, find out for myself, return it if it was no good. So it's quite a long video, sorry about that, but I'll do my best to break it down into chapters to help you find what you want to see. There'll be useful links and those timestamps in the description of the video and a pinned comment below. Now I have said I bought it with my own money. It wasn't given to me free to review. Many of the videos I saw felt like glorified adverts, to be honest with you, but I'll be brutally honest, at its recommended retail price of £339, I don't think I would have kept this projector. I would have sent it back. So why am I keeping it? Because we didn't pay that for it. They did a flash sale recently, knocked £80 off the projector, got it down to $259. So not only the XGIMI store but other places would match that price. So Amazon, Peter Tyson, Richer Sounds here in the UK, wherever you are in the world, you know, check with your favourite retailer. Now although that flash sale has finished, it is still technically reduced. I expect to see this get reduced in the future. If you go to Amazon right now, there's a 15% voucher off, gets it down to $288. Price isn't as good, but it's still not the full whack $339. Right, so we decided to buy it from Richer Sounds. Why did I do that? Well, they price matched it to the $259. They do a 6-year warranty. That was longer than I would have got through Amazon or the XGIMI store. So in my experience, things break the day after the warranty expires. Gives us, you know, a peace of mind. A few years down the line, if it breaks, they'll try and repair it. If it's not economical to repair, get a like for like replacement. If not, some kind of compensation towards a replacement, so we're not completely out of luck. The other thing Richer Sounds does is a VIP club. It's free to join, it's free to be a part of it, so you might as well do it. And when you sign up for it, they give you a £10 discount code on your first purchase over £100. So by doing that, we now got the price down to $249 with that 6-year warranty. We chose the free delivery option, ordered it online. Here in the UK anyway, you get better rights when you're buying sight unseen online than if you go to bricks and mortar stores. So that was the way to go. We ordered it on a Sunday afternoon and it was on our doorstep midday Tuesday. DPD is the courier, those of you that are curious. And me personally, I've always had great success with DPD. So they get in contact with you, they'll give you an hour time slot, you know, 11 to 12, 2 to 3, whatever it will be. And in my experience, if they say 1 to 2, expect them around 1 o'clock. So very happy with Richer Sounds and the fact that they use DPD. There's other couriers like Hermes, changed their name to Every because they had such a bad reputation. We were supposed to have a broom delivered by them, took 5 days and it turned up smashed to pieces. We refused the delivery, wouldn't accept it, and they had the gall to say it was delivered. Not a good firm. Even with Amazon deliveries, they'll say it's expected at a certain time and it gets pushed back throughout the day, well into the evening. And sometimes we've had it not even turn up on that day. It turns up the following day, which could be frustrating. I'm just mentioning this because it can affect who you decide to buy things from, the courier that they choose to use. So we're keeping it because of the price that we've paid and the long warranty, and we're leaning into the portable aspect of this projector and try and have some fun with it. I'm using it, it's actually for my mum to replace a bedroom TV that's broken. If I was trying to use it as a dedicated home theatre projector, I don't think I would have picked this projector at all. If you're going to set it and forget it, maybe mount it to the ceiling aligned to a screen on the wall, there will be better options, even at this price point of about £300. If you go on Reddit, someone will tell you, oh, don't buy these toy portable projectors, buy this Epson whatever model it is, bulb projector. Now for a home theatre they could well be right, but what we've got to factor in is that these bulb projectors, these other ones that are available, yes, they're bright, but that bulb has a significantly shorter lifespan in hours compared to LED projectors. If you've bought it secondhand, it won't necessarily be as bright when it was new, and eventually that bulb will give in and you'll need to replace it. They're quite expensive. The projector itself can also require quite a lot of power to run. It could be as much as 300 watts, which might be okay if you just watch the occasional film, but because we're trying to use this as a TV replacement, we don't want it to use a lot of power if it's going to be on for hours at a time. So we've settled on this. I've obviously done the obvious things. We've projected onto a white wall, which many people will do when they're on a limited budget to start. We got up to about 70-ish inches when it was on a stand at the foot of the bed. I pushed it back further still onto a shelf on the wall, still had room behind it to breathe, and I was up to about 85 inches on the diagonal, and that's actually quite an impressive size for this room. So yeah, we've put it up onto the ceiling, projected up there. Now, unfortunately, it's not a smooth ceiling. It's got texture to it, that popcorn effect, which is unfortunate, but you kind of look through it after a while. You can lay back in bed, lay on the sofa, look up, and yeah, you just sort of see through it. So if you've got a lot of stuff on your walls, pictures hanging up, maybe if you want to project it onto your ceiling in your bedroom, that is certainly doable. We're going to lean into some other things we can do to have a little bit of fun with it as well. So my mum does exercise on a treadmill. She does it indoors, obviously, and that's not fun. You're not out with nature. So we could put a movie or a TV show on a nice big picture in front of her, in front of the treadmill. But what we could also do is these virtual hikes. You'll find them on YouTube, 4K quality. They go on for hours at a time. One day she can walk down the beaches of Hawaii, the next day for a forest with redwood trees all around her, and then walk through the streets of Tokyo the next day, and so on and so on. There's so many videos out there. Maybe you've got an exercise bike, you want to feel like you're going through the Swiss Alps, you'll find videos for that. People going down roads, down trails, plenty of videos out there for you to enjoy. So I'm fully aware some people do have like a room in their house that they have as a makeshift gym. So because this is a portable projector, you can take it in there when you're doing your workout, and then take it out when you're done, put it in the kids' bedroom, let them watch a cartoon on the big screen on the wall with their friends, and they can make lots of noise away from you whilst you have a gin and tonic and a beer. Then take it out of there and have it in your bedroom at night time to watch a film or what have you. Speaking of kids, maybe you've got a child on the way and your partner wants you to paint the small room and make it into a nursery, put a mural on the wall. They might want Disney characters, or from their favourite video game when they were a kid, Legend of Zelda, Mario characters, whatever it might be. But you can't draw to save your life. You don't want to pay a painter or an artist to do the mural because it will be expensive. Paint's bad enough, never mind paying someone for their time and skills. But what you can do is download those images for free online, put them on a memory stick, and have the projector put it onto the wall for you, get a pencil and trace around it, and basically paint by numbers. So I've got a print of the Great Wave of Kanagawa behind me. I could have actually get the picture of that online, project it onto the wall and draw it really, really big, and then mark it off. That should be white, that should be yellow, that should be blue, that should be sky blue, and then have a go at painting it myself. And your friends will see it and say, who did that? So I did it myself. If you did a good enough job, you want to take the credit for it. So that's a good use for the projector. Another thing we could do is if you celebrate Halloween and Christmas, lots of people go OTT with their decorations, and why not? Some people like to compete with their neighbours. So I might actually do this come October, show that I never need to carve pumpkins ever again. I'll buy them whole and project faces onto them using this little projector. Their eyes and mouths will move. They'll be able to sing songs, tell scary stories, just for a bit of fun. I can also project onto the window as well. Now here in the UK we call them net curtains. I don't know what they'll be called around the world, but it's a mesh opaque material to give you privacy. You have curtains open, but people won't be able to see outside in because of this mesh material. Now I have projected a ghost onto that net curtain. I went outside when it was very, very dark at night time, and that looks incredibly cool. It would come and go seeing these ghosts. It was a really incredible effect. So there's companies like Atmos Effects that do these high quality videos for us to use. Some people do, I'm trying to remember what they call it now, projection mapping, where they'll make like a laser show on projecting onto their house outside. I don't think this is bright enough to do that, and I don't really want to worry about it being stolen if I leave it outside a projector, but some people do like to do that. If it's Christmas, I could make it look like Father Christmas is walking through the house, project that video onto the window, people outside looking in. We can trick them with all these things being projected onto the window. It's just a bit of fun. So that gives you some ideas what you can do with projectors other than just the obvious playing a movie or your TV shows. Right, so when my mouse wakes up, I will give you the link so you can get to the XGIMI website, and you can see we've got all of these portable projectors here. Now the home projectors might go up to 4K. These will be much more expensive, but let's just look at the portable projectors. There's quite a few here in this category, and the first confusion comes when people hear portable projector. They assume that you can carry it anywhere and they've got a built-in battery, they'll just work. Well, they don't all have a built-in battery. If they do, it'll be reflected in the price. They'll be more expensive. The Elfin Flip does not have a built-in battery, but I'm absolutely okay with that. Why? Because it's just something else to go wrong. The battery can only be charged and discharged so many times before it degrades. So you might start off with 2.5 hours of battery life when it's new, keep using it, and then it's down to about an hour's of use. So you can watch an animated film, maybe some cartoons. You're not watching the Lord of the Rings. So I'm fine with that it doesn't have a built-in battery, because they're not easily replaceable. The other thing we have to factor in is they can be a fire hazard. Batteries. Ask me how I know. With my Google Pixel 6a phone, Google gimped it with an update. I can't fast charge it. They reduced the capacity because they felt that battery that had been put in that phone was a fire hazard. After 400 cycles, they're not confident that it won't start a fire. Now, they've compensated me to replace it. That's not the issue. It's just that it could be a fire hazard. So I don't need to be worrying that 2 years' time from now, the battery in my projector might start to swell, crack open the case, or catch fire. Even if I could remove the battery safely before it did that, that it might, let dust and things into the projector. Even though I could use it off the mains, it might get dust onto the lens. I don't need to worry about any of those problems because I'm not having the internal battery. So the other thing we have to keep in mind is all these different models of projector and different brands, and they all come in at different prices with different features. So I would hope you set yourself a budget and you say, I want to spend about £300. So you look at your options and you go, well, if we paid a little bit more, we could get these features, and you talk yourself into £400, and then you talk yourself into spending 500, maybe 600. You've doubled what you're originally going to spend. You've talked yourself justifying it because of all of these extra features. Now, the elephant in the room is the Dangbei Atom projector. Now, there may be other comparable projectors, but many people might point you here. I don't want to call it entry level, but like as a mid-range projector, a good place to start from. So you see it says £730 reduced to 529. I always see it reduced to about 650. It was about 620 the other day. Now they're saying 529. So just keep that price in mind and what this projector will do. Okay, it's 1080p, but it's a laser light source. It's quite bright, 1200 ISO lumens, far brighter than any of those XGIMI portable projectors. It is 3D capable, which the Elfin Flip isn't. It does MEMC, motion estimation, motion compensation, or motion smoothing, true motion. Different companies call it different things. The Elfin Flip doesn't do that at all. So we've got the Google TV operating system. You've got access to more apps and games and so on this. So this is probably a good place to be looking. As we look at other projectors, the more expensive they get, you get to sort of £400, you think, well, I might as well just go all out and get the Dangbei Atom. So let's just give you the example of what I had to go through during the sale. So we knew the Elfin Flip, that was going to cost me about £250. We knew what that would do, but the Mogo 3 Pro was reduced. It was still a little bit more money. It was about £100 more, but we could pay that if it was justified, if it made sense. So let's compare them. The Mogo 3 Pro is smaller. It's a smaller footprint, so it's more portable, be easier to put it on a bedside table or what have you. And they both have built-in stands, which is a great plus point. But the Mogo 3 Pro doesn't have the same range, the same number of degrees as the Elfin Flip. The Elfin Flip, I can point at the ceiling easier. So I felt the Elfin Flip won, although it was a little larger. Technically, the Mogo 3 Pro is ever so slightly brighter, but I didn't feel it was really enough to warrant the extra price. The Mogo 3 Pro does use a USB-C port for its power. It doesn't have a built-in battery, but you could easily hook up power banks to it, external batteries, and just swap them over if you wanted to use it portably. Now, I can actually technically do that with the Elfin Flip. It doesn't use a USB-C port. It's got a barrel jack connector, but if you go on Amazon, you'll find a 5.5 by 2.5 millimeter converter to go from that barrel jack to USB-C for about £10, give or take. So you'll be looking for a specific cable, like a 20 volt, can allow, like 100 watts. You don't want it to burn out if you put too much wattage through it. But remember, the Flip is less money. I've got a little bit of extra money to pimp it for it to compete with the Mogo 3 Pro. I can spend less than the Mogo 3 Pro and soup up the Elfin Flip. So with the Mogo 3 Pro, that does have Google TV as its operating system. The Elfin Flip doesn't. So as we said, with the Atom, you can have access to more of these streaming apps and services and games. There's also the Google Home system where if you have a smart home, I've got smart lights from Philips Hue, so I should be able to control it as a remote control using my phone, and even use the Google Assistant. So talk to it and say, well, cinema mode, and it turns my lights off, automatically turns on the projector. Maybe you've bought a motorized projector screen down the line, and that can be automated and raise up all with one command. That would be kind of cool. But then I realised, well, with the Elfin Flip, it's got a full-size HDMI port. I could just plug in an Apple TV, a Shield TV, even something as cheap as a Fire TV stick, and do that. The Mogo 3 Pro does have a HDMI port, but it's a mini one. So many of you won't have a cable or adapter for that. That will need to be bought if you're trying to hook up your Blu-ray player or another device to the Mogo 3 Pro. That would be another expense on top. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything. Maybe you talk yourself into the Mogo 3 Pro. So it's not reduced at the moment. They want 429, but then you realise, if you've talked yourself into that, that, oh, they do this bundle. It's 519, but it has a carry case. That's got a value to it. If we had to buy that afterwards, it would be, you know, whatever it costs. It's got a stand. It's not just a basic stand that's worth £60. This is the power stand. There's a battery built in it, so it's truly portable. We put it on the stand and power it. That's nice. That's like £110 if you bought it separately. We've got a space for the remote, and we'll be able to talk to that because it's Google TV to get things done. There's a slot for the power adapter. There's a fisheye lens to click on. If you're projecting onto the ceiling, it can make it cover a larger area what you're projecting. So it's cheaper to do it as the bundle than buy them as individual items, but it's still £519. And as I said, we're getting close to that price of the Dangbei Atom, which is brighter and does have more features. They do have the Mogo 4, which is 509. We have to factor in that does have a built-in battery. It will obviously be more expensive because the battery's in there. It won't be easily replaceable. As I've said, I don't want to entertain having a built-in battery, and I really don't care about these clip-on filters, which is very gimmicky to me. They also do the Mogo 4 laser, so that should be brighter. Again, don't care about those filters, but at 679, I'm already out. We're well into Dangbei Atom territory now. I'd rather just buy the Dangbei instead. So we will flip back here later. We'll go through the marketing jargon. I'll talk it through for you to help you understand. But hopefully you can see where I'm coming from, how things can be confusing as you're comparing different brands and different models of projector. What I want to do now, many of you have been waiting for this, is for me to talk through the projector and my experience using it. So let's start with the operating system. We don't have Android TV, we don't have Google TV. We've got this XGIMI OS, which is a Linux-based operating system. We could argue Android and Google TV are Linux-based systems, but yeah, this, long story short, I feel you are going to lean into that HDMI port and connect up another device to it. The operating system is very snappy, and you can use it very well to go through the settings, set up the projector and calibrate it, but it's the actual apps themselves that have been a little bit disappointing for me. So let me just explain. They make a big thing about it being a Netflix projector. Why are they doing it? It's Netflix certified. Cheaper projectors will say they support Netflix, but you install it through some workaround, some hacky way of doing it, and it might stop working in the future. Or the Widevine DRM, that limits you to 720p. It might be a 1080p projector, but your quality is limited to a lower 720p, which isn't ideal. So this is certified Netflix. That is a proper app. I can't uninstall it. I can't move it. It's always first on the home screen. I'm sure Netflix insisted on that if they're going to put their name on the box to help sell it. So I don't have a Netflix subscription to test it, but I have opened the app up. It's a proper app. It's not going to the web browser, and it opened pretty snappily. If someone told me it worked well, I wouldn't disbelieve them. Next app we have over is Plex, and this is what I was really interested in because we use Plex more than anything else in this household. What is Plex? At its most basic, it is technically a free streaming service. Now it says XGIMI TV at the top. There's even a button for it on the remote. We've got buttons for Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video and XGIMI TV, but all XGIMI TV is just rebanded Plex, the free channels that they give you, and they're free because they do inject adverts into it. So that's not really what I use Plex for. With, like many people have set up these media servers. If you upgrade your laptop or your computer, the old one's gathering dust, rather than it being e-waste, you can repurpose it to be this media server. You can make your own Netflix at home, your own Spotify, back up your music CDs, your DVDs, your Blu-rays, store them digitally on the hard drive, access them in your home. You don't have to swap discs over, you don't have to get them out of the case that they might get scratched. You can listen to your music in the garden, you can listen to it when you're at work, on the walk to work, over the internet. You can invite your family to be part of Plex, and they can access your media server over the internet from their home as well. What we have is a TV tuner from HD Home Run. That gives me 4 channels. 4 devices can watch TV at the same time as long as they're connected to my network. Go out in the garden. We can do it through Plex. Even my mum, who's in her 70s, she's got on board with using Plex. We don't really watch the TV live anymore. We just set up the shows she likes to watch, and it records them. And then when it's done, it scans for adverts, and it can either automatically cut them out or mark them to be skipped, so she doesn't have to hop from channel to channel dodging adverts anymore. She can sit and enjoy her shows that have been pre-recorded. She's really got on board with that. So we were very excited to see the Plex app included with the operating system until I signed into it, and I can't say verbatim what the message was, but it was along the gist of, oh, we're not entirely sure what this device is. We may need to transcode your content. What's transcoding? My media server has to convert the video on the fly, maybe drop it from 4K to 1080p, change the audio codec from Dolby Digital Plus or Dolby True HD or DTS, whatever, to something that the projector understands and can play. Now, that's not the end of the world to a casual user. To my mum, she'll still see a picture and she'll still hear sound. To her, it works. To me, as more of a power user, I don't want to see it transcoding. I want it to direct play. Now, someone will be shouting at me and typing in the comments, but you can force direct play in the settings. Yes, you can, but my content didn't play then. I think it's coming down to that H.264 level. You go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. This seems to be recommended at 4.1, and that's probably why a lot of my content is having to be transcoded, because it's at level 5 or higher. So that was a little disappointing that I'm having surround sound audio tracks being converted down to stereo. Yeah, for the casual user it's fine. For me, I'm not too happy about it. I think I'm going to end up, if it was for me, plugging in another device like the Shield TV or Apple TV. Right, so we've got Disney Plus, which I couldn't find in the App Store until I updated the projector through the settings. You go into the About section, update the firmware, either do it over the internet through the Wi-Fi, or you can put a file on a memory stick and update it that way. It's easy enough to do, very quick. Once it was updated to the latest firmware, it updated the App Store and Disney Plus was there. Now the thing is, Disney Plus, it isn't really, strictly speaking, the app. When you click on that, it opens up the web browser and automatically directs you to the website, and you can sign in and move the mouse cursor around with the remote control. You're pushing the cursor around as you press the button. It's very janky. It's not particularly nice to use. In an app, you're used to pushing up, down to skip from thumbnail to thumbnail what you want to play. It's not enjoyable to use. I mean, I welcome that it's there. My mum has free access to Disney Plus as a perk to her bank account. She does have Prime Video as well, and some people do get Netflix included with their internet service as well. So it's good to see these services available in the operating system, just the apps don't all work the same. So I have tried Prime Video. That isn't the browser, but I couldn't log in because I didn't have a password. But yeah, it seems to be a proper app, but whenever I've used it in the past, I've struggled to find what to watch through the user interface. I didn't find it particularly user friendly. We've got the YouTube app, which did work very well. I just signed in very quickly as a guest and tried out those hiking videos. But yeah, I could have signed in with my YouTube account. You know, everything I've subscribed to have that readily available. Very snappy, seemed to work very, very well. We've got the XGIMI Wall then. Try and think of it as like the screensaver. It's kind of gimmicky in that you can project onto your wall or your window, and you can make it look like a Martian landscape, and then eventually you'll see an astronaut walk past that window. Or you could be under the sea and there's whales and sharks moving around outside. It could be artwork. You could point the projector to the ceiling. It could do the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis. Yeah, lots of stuff you can download. It doesn't take up a lot of space on the projector. You might as well download them all. There's Christmas decorations, all kind of things. So yeah, that kind of works as a screensaver, and it can skip through those different scenes. It's kind of fun, and I welcome that it's there. I should mention that we can hook up a USB memory stick with videos on it and play that. A little icon will come up at the top near the Wi-Fi signal. You can select that, or you can do it through the resource management, the file manager, whatever you want to call it. And what kind of surprised me was it's actually a pretty decent media player. You even had the option to sync audio and video if they're out of sync, and that can happen if you do use Bluetooth devices. You know, sometimes everything becomes like a badly dubbed kung fu movie. The lips are moving, but no sound is being played. It's all out of sync. So that was welcome to see. Those of you looking to do Atmos effects and project onto Windows, you can do that. You can loop them through, do it off a memory stick plugged into the projector. That did actually work quite well. So yes, it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. I think many of you are going to be happier if you plug something into the HDMI port. So let's start talking about the picture quality. The first thing we're going to talk about is how you turn it on, set it up. You flip it open and it will put this picture onto your screen, onto your wall, and it will use the camera in the front of it to make adjustments. It's got this intelligent automatic screen adjustment. So if you've got a picture hanging on the wall, it will try to avoid it. If there's a potted plant with leaves, it will shrink the picture down so there's nothing blocking your view. It will auto keystone it, make sure everything's a nice straight rectangle. It will do the zoom, it will do the focus automatically for you. If it doesn't work well the first time, you can run the auto calibration again, and I've never had to do it more than twice. And if you're still not happy with it, you can technically adjust it manually with the remote. But it is very, very easy to set up. You know, my mum's not particularly tech savvy, in her 70s, but she said she would have no problems using this at all. It's literally open it up, turn it on, it creates the picture, and off you go, choose what you want to watch. So once you've done that, we do have some more adjustment. You can adjust the digital zoom, make the picture bigger or smaller within reason what's being cast onto the wall. And we can shift the picture, move it higher up to the ceiling, drop it down a little lower, go left and right a little bit to adjust it. That all works quite well. Right, so what I know you're going to notice that weird shape. We'll get to that in a minute. But I need to point out these pictures that's projected onto that wall behind me, that is just a white wall. There is a texture to it. You might notice these marks where I'm actually hanging pictures. So I can actually see that some of the paint is brighter than the rest of the wall because that picture has protected it over time. That does affect the image. Because the projector is DLP, I can also see like a screen door effect as like a grid pattern. This is only noticeable if you're very close to the image. If you're far away, you really can't see it. People also worry about this rainbow effect that can come from DLP projectors with a static image if you're moving your head around. I didn't notice that at all, but I can definitely see a texture on the wall, and there is definitely a grid pattern if I get too close, but I can look past that as long as I'm a decent distance from the screen. So let's deal with this elephant in the room, this weird grey shape around the image. So what happens, the projector is casting like a light onto the wall. Think of it as a light canvas. That canvas is what it can draw an image upon, and so it will auto keystone. It will make that perfectly rectangle shape to be your screen for your image. So why is it a light grey? Try to get your head around the fact that that is the best the projector can do for black in this circumstance, because it's on a highly reflective white wall. That's either a silk or satin white paint. But you'll be thinking, well, that can't be black surely, because look at that black dot there amongst the green. That's darker than that grey. It's not. It's an optical illusion. The camera in my phone gets tricked just as our eyes and our brain can adapt to light over time. It's because there's lighter colours around it that we just see that as being darker than it actually is. If the whole scene was black, it would all be that washed out grey. That grey is black, but sometimes it can appear darker in the image. Hopefully that's making sense. If you want to avoid this weird shape, you must get the projector square on. Really pay attention to how you set it up. What I've done here deliberately is shine it onto the wall at an angle. Maybe that's what you have to do in your room, and that's why we're getting this trapezoid weird shape, and it's auto keystoning to correct within that light canvas of light. So I obviously played some content. Here's Plex. So I've chose the theme where it's grey in the background, so we can actually see it does show up those blacks. It's tricking our eyes. If I went for a different theme, which is called high contrast, the background would be black, and that would actually be that washed out grey, and you'd see it blend into these like Alien Earth and Mayfair Witches. They'd all, that black wouldn't be as dark, it would be a washed out grey. It's weird how these optical illusions work, but the problem I have is as we're projecting onto the wall, that light reflects back off the ceiling, off that side wall, and then it washes out the screen as well. I really need the walls to be darker, the ceiling to be darker. It's not just ambient light in the room. It's not just a question of shutting the curtains. The projector is also creating this ambient light in the room by bouncing light off the walls. It's not just like buying the TV, you're done. There's other things we have to take into account when setting up a projector. So I've got to have a think what we're going to do. Maybe repaint these walls a matte light grey, and we can start off projecting onto the wall. That will help a little bit. I don't think we're going to buy an ambient light rejecting screen. That's going to be £500 up to £1,000 or more. I don't see us doing that with the cost of this projector, but I could make a projector screen. We could buy some black velvet to go around the border, help cut out that overspill of light around the picture. There's things we can do. People that are into home theatre, they can put black velvet curtains up, and that will also help stop sound reflections as well, getting echoes in the room. When you start getting into home theatre, there's all these things you have to think about. So I did put on a few movies. So there's Superman there, and I can actually see how much brighter it is where that paint has been protected by the picture on the wall, and it's darker over here. That's simply the quality of the paint on the wall. But I mean, that's a respectable size. I think it was, 70 to 80 inches at the time. That was done at the foot of the bed. Later on, I put it further back. I got it up to 85, maybe 90 inches. But again, we can see that light is bouncing off the ceiling, off the side wall. There's a little bit filtering through from the curtains. There's a gap in the curtains. But I mean, it's a very watchable picture if you're not being overly analytical. So we've got Crypto there, and then we've got the Fortress of Solitude opening up. So it's dark, and then it goes out into the Antarctic. It gets very, very bright. So I did some Disney stuff as well, the cartoons, because what you project on is important, but also what you're watching. So we did like Aladdin, and it's very, very bright and very colourful. Is this the first thing you saw in the projector? You'd be incredibly impressed by it. Very big screen, and those colours are very, very bright and vivid. Actually looked really, really good. But the problem is when you get into other things, this is like TV shows, Alien Earth, where it might be into horror films and everything's dark and gloomy. That's when we're having problems with the blacks and the shadow detail, again because of that contrast off the wall, because it's such a bright wall, and the light bouncing off the wall back onto the wall, washing it out. So it's watchable. It probably looks worse in this picture than it actually does in person, but I just want people to be aware of it, so they don't get disappointed when they buy the projector. Too many videos made it sound like, oh, I can project it onto my white cabinets in the kitchen. I move this projector and put it on this wall and that wall, and I always get a great picture. That's really not how it works with projectors. So there's the Boo Crew from Atmos Effects. That's what I shone onto the net curtains. Yes, okay, we've got that washed out black, the grey in the background, but that doesn't actually matter when I just want those ghosts to show up in the window on the net curtain. That did actually work incredibly well. They're moving around, they are making noises. Very, very cool. It looks awesome from outside looking in the dark in the night time. Right, so let's start going through the actual settings, the menu of the projector. I'm sure people will be curious what options are available. This is if we just push the quick menu setting on the remote. We've got the auto keystone there that's highlighted. So we can run that again to correct the image. You can then go over and do it manually, correct each corner if you want to. We've shown that it can zoom and shift. The autofocus, we could also do this through the remote. There's a button, you tap it, and it will autofocus. As the temperature of the projector changes, the focus might blur slightly, so you need to refocus. So tap that button or hold it in for a couple of seconds, then you push left and right to dial in your focus. Nice and easy to do. We've got the network and internet, so you can connect to 2.4 or 5 gigahertz internet. One thing to keep in mind, your router at home probably has just one name. 2.4 and 5 gigahertz are combined in that one name. It's a good idea to actually separate those out if you can in your router settings. Why? 5 gigahertz has good speeds, but its range is much shorter. It struggles to get through walls. If you're trying to take this out into the garden, you're trying to get the maximum range and have a party outside and display on a portable screen, you might want to be using the 2.4 gigahertz. It's slower, but for streaming you should be okay, and you're going to get a longer range, so you know which network you're connecting to if you can divide them out. It's just good practice. So we see we've got the Bluetooth options there. We can sync things up like headphones and soundbars. I'll talk about that later. We've got quick access to the XGIMI Wall, like that screensaver. The signal source, we've also got a button on the remote to switch over to the HDMI, and you can in fact have it automatically load the HDMI every time you turn the projector on. If you're going to not use the operating system at all, you want to use an Apple or a Google device. Right, so we've got the image correction, the auto keystone. You can have it do that automatically every time you turn it on and open it up, or you can disable it if you'd rather do it manually if there's a reason for that. We can see all those settings there. I've got the projection type as well, so obviously front if the projector's in front of the screen, but it can also be done from behind the screen. Very early large televisions were rear projection. There was a projector shone into a mirror which bounced it back onto the material which you assumed was the TV screen. So that's how it was done back in the day. You can still do that with projectors if you want to. If we want to shine onto the ceiling, you could be lying in bed looking up, but everything's upside down depending where you've put the projector in the room. So when you go to the ceiling option, it will flip it around so it's right side up when you're lying in bed. All these options to alter the projection type. So we do have the signal source. You can see I don't have HDMI connected at the moment, but I could hook up an Apple TV, Shield TV. You could hook up a soundbar or connect it to an AVR to do EARC, Enhanced Audio Return Channel. So whatever's playing on the projector, the sound will come out through a soundbar or an AVR. We've got HDMI settings there. See the startup source, as I've said. You can have it be the HDMI by default when it starts. We have CEC control, Consumer Electronic Control. What does that mean? Well, if I've plugged in a Blu-ray player and I've set it to start that automatically when we open it up, I don't need to use the Blu-ray player's remote control. It can all be done through the projector's remote. Same for my Shield TV. I can control it with the projector remote just to be convenient. So then we've got the general settings. I'll go into About. That's where we do the update for the projector, and I updated the store, so I've got access to more apps like Disney Plus. We can set when the screensaver comes on, 5, 10, 15 minutes or more, whatever suits you. That XGIMI Wall app will come on. There's a sleep timer, so if you know when you watch something you tend to doze off and you don't want it running too long, you can say, oh, well, turn off after an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. We've got set the date and time. We can set our language. We've got the advanced settings, and you can see the eco mode. Now this might cause a little bit of confusion. Turning eco mode on will reduce the brightness and volume. We recommend enabling the mode when using the built-in battery. The Elfin Flip doesn't have a built-in battery. This is a generic message when this operating system is used on other projectors. So it says if you've got the XGIMI power base stand, that's got a battery built in it, or you're using the third-party adapter for the power supply. So like I say, you can go on Amazon, about £10, get a cable that makes the barrel jack into a USB-C so you can hook up a power bank. So we use this mode because it's not as bright and we'll get more life out of the battery because we're not pushing it as hard. There's the energy saver mode, so I've set that to 4 hours. If my mum dozes off using this, which she inevitably will after 15 minutes, it won't stay on all night long. It will turn off after so many hours. You can set that to your preference. So now we've got display and sound. We've got a number of picture modes: standard, movie, game, custom. You can adjust the brightness, the contrast. You can play with the color levels. With the brightness, some of you be thinking, oh yeah, well, if I lower the brightness, that weird gray border will disappear. No, it won't. That'll always be present. It's the brightness of the picture within that light canvas that's going to be adjusted. So I have tried to calibrate it to that wall, but I'll need to do it again if we go to a projector screen. So you find plenty of videos about that on YouTube. They'll put up a thing and say, here's the blacks, turn it up so you can see all the blacks. Now turn it down so you can only see 2 shades of black. And here's the whites, turn it up so you can see the box. Now turn it down till that box disappears and you're roughly calibrated for brightness and contrast on your wall. So with the game mode, the low latency, you want to be cutting out any of that auto keystone correction. You must align the projector precisely yourself. All that auto keystone, it's processing time, which creates latency. If you press a button on your gamepad, you pull the trigger, there will be a delay between that happening on the screen, which you obviously don't want. So I haven't actually tested any games with it yet. From what I've heard, it's more than acceptable, provided you don't use the auto keystone. So we've got sound output. You can use the built-in speakers, and they are actually reasonably okay as far as like TV speakers go. I know they say they're 3 watts, but keep in mind, most speakers, when they're reviewed, they're given a sensitivity rating. I don't know what the sensitivity rating is for these, but say like KEF, the Q series, they'll say 86 decibel sensitivity. That means with 1 watt of power at 1 meter away, the volume is 86 decibels, which is actually pretty loud. So don't get caught up in the fact that, oh, they're only 3 watt speakers. 3 watt speakers could still get reasonably loud. It will just depend how big your room is. The quality of sound is reasonably good. There is some bass to it. I mean, me personally, I'd rather hook it up to a soundbar with a subwoofer, or I have an AVR with a subwoofer attached for the extra bass. We do get, they call it sound effects. I wish it was called equalizer, because that's basically what it is. Different modes for movie, music. If you're watching the news, so that's more like the dialogue, because newsreaders obviously read, there's no other music or stuff going on, or for sports as well. We've got the volume balance to normalize the sounds to keep it consistent. That's a nice option as well. So we've got the sound output. You don't just have to use the built-in speaker. I did mention you could hook up a sound bar or an AVR over the HDMI port for the enhanced audio return channel mode. Now, what I found with this, we plugged in a memory stick and I put a DTS film on it, digital theatre sound. So movies like The Terminator, James Bond, they were done in DTS, Jurassic Park. Not everything is Dolby. It goes on about Dolby audio, but it can't process DTS sound. You'll get a picture, but you won't get sound. And it gets confusing because it talks about the output format and the pass-through, how you should be able to send DTS audio through. That didn't work. I had this plugged in to my AVR and it would tell me across the front of the screen if it's Dolby Digital, Dolby Digital Plus, Dolby Digital Plus Atmos, whether it's DTS, DTS:X, it tells me on the front of the AVR. So I tried a few different formats. It's okay with the Dolby formats until you get to Dolby True HD, and it's not too sure what that is. It goes to the fallback, the legacy mode, so you don't get True HD playing. So again, you're not going to want to be playing much on the projector itself. You're far better off to use something like a Shield TV, like an Apple TV, plug that into the AVR, get a soundbar that has an extra HDMI input. Don't use a Sonos Arc, anything like that, with one HDMI input. Make sure you've got an extra input and do it that way. The picture comes through the projector, all the sound will be dealt with by your AVR, or your soundbar would be the way to go. But if you're a casual, it won't matter. But I just want those of you that are power users to understand what's going on with eARC and all of these different codecs. So technically, I haven't tried it, but if you use Netflix and you pay for the Dolby Digital Plus Atmos, it should be able to put that out to your soundbar or AVR. If that's all you do, streaming services, you should be okay. It's when we're using Plex and it's transcoding, that's going to screw it up in the operating system. So it gets a little bit confusing, but these are all the things I wanted to know before I bought it. Right, so we've got the Bluetooth and accessories. You can see the XGIMI RC is the remote control. It's good that it's Bluetooth because some projectors it's actually infrared, and sometimes the infrared is behind the projector. So if you're not behind it, you can't change any of the settings. Bluetooth is good. You can see I've got HD 250 BT. They are Sennheiser headphones and they are bang on, absolutely bang on. The audio and video synced up perfectly. People are saying there was latency. That's going to be on a device basis. Your mileage may vary, but with my Sennheiser headphones, it was fine. I've got 2 pairs of them. I was hoping we could run 2 pairs of headphones at the same time, but that didn't happen. You could only have 1 pair going at a time, which was a slight disappointment, but it is what it is. At least you know. The Stage V2 is an inexpensive creative stage soundbar that I bought for my mum, which does support Bluetooth, and it does have a slim subwoofer built in. Again, no delay whatsoever. It was bang on, the lips moving to the sound, no delay whatsoever. It's quite impressed with that. Your soundbar, it might be different, there might be a delay. So we can see there's the absolute volume as well. So I've turned that off so I get a little bit more adjustment to the volume. Right, so that's basically all of the settings. Let's just flip back to the store so I can go over all the marketing spiel to help you make sense of it. So we've talked about how bright it is, 400 ISO lumens, but many other projectors use ANSI lumens. They're both valid measurements, but I'm sure they've used ISO lumens because it's conveniently a higher number than if they measured it in ANSI lumens. So obviously the higher number makes it look better. So just be careful if you're comparing it to other projectors that you're not comparing ISO to ANSI. Make sure you're looking at the same. So we talked about why licensed Netflix is important. So we do get the 1080p quality that this projector is rated for, not being limited to 720p. We've got the built-in stand that doubles as a handle. Yeah, I guess it does, but what mattered to us is that it did have a built-in stand. It wasn't something extra we had to pay for, and that we could tilt it up towards the ceiling. There was another reasonably affordable Dangbei Neo projector, which is very cube shaped. That was about £200, but I'd need to buy the stand for it to tilt it up to the ceiling, and then that brought it close to the 249 I was paying for the Elfin Flip. So the Elfin Flip just won for other reasons as well. So we see it's a 1080p display, and they call it a book-sized movie theatre. That's why they rest it on a book, just to give you an idea of scale. The size of the projector is actually relatively small. So the ISA was said about the intelligent screen adjustment, adaptation, whatever it actually stands for. That works incredibly well. Very easy to set the projector up. I can't fault it for that. It says it's 2.5 inches thick, light and portable. I don't know why there's a battery symbol on it. It doesn't have a built-in battery. That's just going to confuse people. There absolutely is no battery. If you want to hook one up, you'll need to buy that adapter to convert the barrel jack to USB-C. So we're going to have more chat about the streaming services. I've just told you in that section about the operating system, I wasn't that impressed with the built-in apps. Many of them kind of work, but I would lean into using the HDMI port, even if you just buy a Fire Stick. Amazon do sales all the time for their products, trying to get people into their ecosystem. So we've got more marketing spiel, ultra slim, easily fit into any space. Well, she's walked off without the power adapter. That's not going to do her much good, but yes, you can fit it in a bag, easily take it to other people's houses if you really wanted to. You can see that they're lying back and they've got that image. It's not a flat ceiling, it's sloped. I don't know you'll get it that big with the projector that close to the wall, but yes, it would correct itself onto that sloped ceiling and that would work fine. It talks about the room filling audio. Well, how big is the room? Are you in a cathedral or a bathroom? The size of the room will matter. But yeah, this is a modest size room. I wouldn't call myself an audiophile. I do appreciate good sound. I've got KEF surround speakers. I've got the subwoofer. I've got Dolby Atmos AVR. But I mean, yeah, the speakers were okay. As far as TV speakers go, I prefer something a little bit better. But for casual people, they'd be more than happy. You can always use headphones or a soundbar over Bluetooth, or use the HDMI as well. So that they show the XGIMI Wall, and that would be like the screensaver. So you can have a little bit of fun casting that onto the wall or onto the window. And I did mention as well, like Atmos effects, all those things we could do for the holiday seasons, projecting onto the windows or the walls, scary scenes or stuff for Christmas decorations, that can be done. This isn't sucking a lot of power to do that. I'll be happy to leave it on for a few hours over the holiday period to go with the Christmas lights and the decorations. So they say it's a new product. There is an Elfin that came before it. I think they've discontinued it. That's a completely different projector. That was actually technically brighter, if I remember right. It's a different specs. If you go watching other reviews, don't get the two confused. Don't look at a review for the Elfin, because it's not the Elfin Flip. They look similar, but the Elfin doesn't have that built-in stand. We talked about XGIMI TV. It's just rebranded free Plex content. So there's reasonable shows on there that's available, but they will have adverts. That's why they're free. We've already talked about Netflix and YouTube Prime Video, and there is Disney Plus if you do the update. It talks about flip on brighter visuals. So again, we've talked about the brightness, but they're talking about the color gamut. It's 113%. It's all to do with color reproduction. And to be fair, the colors do look pretty good. It's that black level, but getting those washed out grey blacks that can be a problem, the contrast, but that can be as much our fault what we're projecting onto. Don't just expect magic if you're going onto a white wall. So we talked about the DLP technology a little bit earlier. So just as TVs have different technologies, projectors have different technologies as well. I was deliberately avoiding an LCD projector. Not that they're necessarily bad quality image, but that they could burn out, and they are a cheaper projector to make than the DLP, which is using lots of mirrors inside it. So yes, there's drawbacks to DLP. I mentioned that you can sometimes see that rainbow effect, and there was that grid pattern, that screen door effect that was noticeable when very close to the image, but when you're back from it, you really don't see it. Just want people to do their research, their homework about these different technologies, what suits them. We've already talked about the stand, how that was very easy to point up to the ceiling. Even doing that, there's enough of a gap at the back to let it vent so it won't overheat itself. That's important to know. So we've got the effortless setup. I will give them that, the ISA, intelligent screen alignment or adjustment, whatever they call it. So auto keystone, it will square it off for you. It will automatically focus. It will avoid things in the way like pictures and plants you've got. It does a really, really good job. So it says powerful sound. I think that's probably, marketing talk. That's a bit excessive. But as we've said, with the 3 watts and speaker sensitivity ratings, 3 watts can be reasonable. Don't think that that's a low number, so they must be terrible. Obviously a high number, if it was 5 watts, would be welcome. But that doesn't mean that they're very, very quiet speakers. We've talked about the Dolby Audio. It doesn't know what Dolby True HD is. And it definitely doesn't do DTS sound, digital theatre sound. It won't pass that through, even though it said it did in the options, which was a little confusing. Goes back to talking about it being a book-sized portable movie theatre. I'll give them that. It is portable. Doesn't have the built-in battery, but it is portable. It is easy to carry around. So this is a useful presentation. It does give us an idea of the distance from our wall or screen, the size of image that we'll get. So the throw ratio is 1.2 to 1. If we're about a metre away from the wall, we get about a 40-inch screen on the diagonal. And to be fair, I've got a 42-inch OLED in front of me right now. That's a respectable size screen. So it says if you watch it in a bright room, it's going to be brighter the closer it is to the wall, help it punch through the ambient light in the room. If we go 1.6 meters back, so I'm about 6 foot, so that's about 1.8 meters, you can watch a room with medium ambient light. The blacks are probably going to be washed out a little bit, but you'll have a viewable picture of about 60 inches, which is even more respectable. As we get out to 2 meters, so that's over 6 feet, you're watching with the curtains closed, trying to reduce the amount of ambient light in the room. But as I mentioned, if you've got highly reflective walls, you're creating ambient light from the projector itself as it ricochets that light off the ceiling, off the other walls. And that's when we get to 3.2 meters and that 120 inches, when it's supposed to be a dedicated room for home theatre or lights off. So when they say a light control room, they're not just talking about you can turn the lights off and shut the curtains. They're talking about having dark walls, having dark ceilings, having black velvet curtains either side to block out light and around the borders. All these things that people need to do to make the best cinema. Think about it when you go to the cinema, they always have dark walls and they turn the lights down, but it's all set up to be a very dark place once the movie starts playing. So that is helpful. We've got the projectors for every lifestyle. So as I said, there was plenty of videos already about the Elfin Flip, but many of them felt like advertisements. Some did try to be impartial, but they did get some things wrong, like saying it didn't have eARC on the HDMI port when it absolutely does. I was getting HDR through the HDMI from what I could tell, but it's not an overly bright projector in the first place to really do high dynamic range justice. But I mean, fair play to all these people that show, they're hanging up their outside projector screen and they get the family watching stuff, but they actually start playing it at night time, not during daytime. They just set it up in the early evening. So we've got the custom accessories. I said about that stand, that one's about £60. They do the power stand, which is 110 with a built-in battery. So yeah, okay, we could use the power stand with the Elfin Flip, provided we buy the adapter to convert it to USB-C. If you want to do that, if you want to buy an additional stand, there is that 1/4 inch thread on the bottom of the built-in stand if you want to do that. So the silicon case for the remote control, I don't really know what that's for. Maybe it's to stop it sliding around when you put it down. I don't know. I don't really feel a need to buy it. So then we get into the spec sheets. You can see the portable projector. It's the LED light source. It's not laser. 25,000 hours, so really good lamp life on it. Use it for a very long time. It's the DLP technology. It's not LCD. I've said I was deliberately trying to stay away from LCD projectors. I felt dust would get in them and they would burn out very, very quickly. We're going to run this for long periods of time as a television, not the occasional film. So we've got the display chip, 0.23, so they can actually have larger ones, which would obviously be a brighter, better image, but this is what it is. There is no 3D support. To be fair, I did actually try. These are passive 3D glasses. I put them on and they're technically like sunglasses, so it does dim the image down, but I could still see what was happening, but it just doesn't support 3D. What I actually do to watch 3D content is use my VR headset. It can still do stereoscopic. You can get the 3D effect, but there is no dimming because you don't wear active or passive glasses. So for this has cost me £250, not £650 or whatever a dang bay atom would be. At £400 difference, I can go off and buy myself a VR headset and use that as a completely separate toy for other things as well as watching 3D videos. Spend your money wisely. He who dies with the most toys wins. So we've got supported formats. We've got HDR, not Dolby Vision, but high dynamic range 10. But as I said, it's not really that bright to really do HDR justice anyway. We've talked about the latency for gaming. AK off means automatic keystone, so any correction will be turned off. You'll need to align it the best you can yourself, get it square on to the wall, and you'll get the lowest latency. You push a button and things will happen sooner rather than later, the lower the latency. So MEMC, I mentioned this before, motion estimated motion compensation, motion smoothing, true motion, whatever companies want to call it, is not supported in this projector, but my LG OLED, I have it turned off. All the filmmaker modes, as it's intended to be seen by the director, turns these motion smoothing modes off anyway. I never turn them on. If you like them, that's fair enough. It's inserting these fake frames in between to smooth out the motion. I don't like it. If you do, you'll need to look for another projector. It's not supported on the Elfin Flip. So we've got our brightness in ISO lumens. We've got our native resolution of 1080p. We've got our color gamut, the Rec 709, 113. So there's different color gamuts out there. Sort of color grading for different formats, different things, whether it's movies or what have you. So yes, this is respectable. The color reproduction is actually pretty good. They don't state the contrast ratio. They're obviously trying to hide that, so chances are it's not particularly good. But yeah, it's watchable. It really depends what you're watching. If you stay away from dark stuff, you're not going to worry about the blacks being washed out grey. But I really feel there's more I could do with this room and projector screens and painting the walls to improve the contrast and the black levels. And I know that for a fact because I've taken, you know, dark pieces of cardboard in grey or black, put it up to the wall as it's projecting, and you do see better blacks, but it obviously dims the overall picture. But there's definitely things I could do to improve the image. We can see our lens is highlight transmission coated lens. It's just to stop reflections. They talk all the science they like, but they're just letting you know what the lens is. It works perfectly fine. Eye protection, so no, it doesn't come with goggles. It's whether people walk in front of it that it turns it off to stop blinding people. It's not going to give you laser eye surgery, but it won't be pleasant to stare into. It is still a reasonably bright light. So we know about the auto keystone correction. We know about the autofocus. We know that it automatically will try to fit into the screen, the projector screen you might have on your wall, and it will avoid obstacles on your wall like hung pictures or plants. We have a digital zoom, not optical, it's a digital zoom. The throw ratio is 1.2 to 1. That can help people calculate where it should be in the room and to what screen size. If you're trying to put up a projector screen, you want to know roughly what size you're going to get on the wall. where you locate the projector. Our aspect ratio is 16:9. So if you are looking at projector screens, cheap ones on Amazon, keep in mind some of them are a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is a square. 16:9 is the rectangle. That's what most content is now. If you ever watched anything old like Columbo or Murder, She Wrote, those old shows, you get those black bars down the left and right of your screen. That's because it was filmed in the 4:3. So you can have 16:9 with black bars down the left and right if it's 4:3 content, but if it's widescreen 16:9, that will fill your rectangular screen. Just don't want you to buy the wrong thing because you see that 4:3 might be cheaper. So we've already talked through the projection methods. You can do it in front, you can do it from behind the screen, you can project onto the ceiling and flip it around so it's right side up if you're lying down looking up. It says the image size 80 to 150. We can actually go smaller than that and get it down to about 40 inches, but I assume what they're thinking is most people want a reasonably big screen. That's why you buy the projector. So as I said, when I first set it up at the end of the bed, projecting to the wall, I was well into the 70s, moved it back to the wall of the room, and we were up 85, 90 inches on the diagonal, something like that. Really impressive screen size. It was very, very watchable. So it's telling us what the CPU, the built-in processor is, and its integrated graphics. So yeah, if we ran the Google TV operating system, it could actually get a little bit clunky, whether the processor's powerful enough to run it, whether it's got enough RAM. The Google Android OSs can be a little bloated, a little bit laggy depending on the hardware that's running it. So again, as I said, probably better off running something off that HDMI port. We've got 2 gig of RAM, 16 gig of storage, but you never get the full amount when it's formatted. It's more like 10 gig usable, and that's plenty. We're going to install a few apps and maybe some of those extra scenes for the XGIMI Wall for the screensaver. So our operating system is the XGIMI OS. It's not Android TV, it's not Google TV. We don't have access to those Google Play stores. So there's a few extra apps available on the App Store. You can do, what do they call it? IPTV. There's some apps for that if you're into that, for setting that up. It's not something I've entertained. I'm mainly using Plex. So we do have fast boot. It does start very, very quickly, the operating system. I will give it that. We've got DLNA and Miracast. So yes, you can cast from your iPad, your iPhone, or your Android phone. I've tested it with the Android phone. It's not something I tend to do. I wouldn't want to do a whole film that way, but if you've got some photos you want to show everybody in the room on the big screen, or maybe a video you took on your holidays that's quite short, you want everybody to see it on the projector, I can see doing that. That would make sense. So we've already talked about the speakers, 3 watts, a sensitivity rating. So if a speaker says it's 86 decibels, that means with 1 watt of power, 1 meter away, it's quite loud at 86 decibels. So 3 watts, it would be nice if it was a higher number, but it's reasonable. The quality of the sound is actually fairly decent by TV speaker standards. So we don't support digital theatre sound, HD, or DTS or DTSX, anything like that. It does support Dolby Audio, so Dolby Digital, Dolby Digital Plus, Dolby Digital Plus Atmos. It's true HD. It struggles with, doesn't really know what it is. It falls back to the legacy mode. We've got our Wi-Fi bands, 5 and 2.4 gigahertz. I did say, there's a difference. More range on 2.4, but slower speeds. You get better speeds, 5 gigahertz, but you won't be able to take it as far away from the router. We've got Bluetooth 5.1. As I said, my headphones paired absolutely perfectly. So did my soundbar. No latency. Your mileage may vary. You might be using a cheaper soundbar. Maybe it's more expensive and it still has some latency. There's nothing I can do about it. So we've got the input ports. We've got the HDMI 2.0 port, USB. So if you want to power a USB, like a Fire Stick through the HDMI port, you can do that. And we've got that DC barrel jack connector for power. It says there's no output ports because there's no 3.5mm jack to plug in wired headphones or a wired speaker. There's no optical output, SPDIF, although technically that HDMI port is ARC, so it's audio return channel. Audio can go out of the HDMI to a soundbar or an AVR. The noise level, I'll assume, is for the built-in fan. It says around 28 decibels, give or take, at a meter away. It's not loud, but it's audible if nothing else is playing, depending on how close you are to it. But once something is playing, it very quickly drowns out any sound. I wouldn't call it offensively loud, and once something's playing, you won't even know the fan is on. So power dissipation, 65 watts. I don't know if that's the power draw or the amount of heat that it's pumping out the vent. Hard to say. I really should have found my watt meter to measure what it's sucking down at the wall, but I couldn't find it. But I know it won't be 300 and something watts of power it's using like a bulb projector. So here's our power, what the power brick's using. So alternating current, 100 to 240 volts, depending what region you're in the world. You've got 50 and 60 hertz, 19 volts at 3.42 amps. So as I said, if you're looking for that adapter cable to go from the barrel jack to USB-C, buy the 20 volt one. Don't buy a 9 volt or a 12 volt. They won't be able to work with the projector. We've got the size, we know it's fairly small. We can see the weight of it, around 1 kilo. Very, very light. The actual package size all in the box is only a couple of kilos as well. We get the power plug with it, we get a manual, we get a warranty card, and the Bluetooth remote does come with batteries included, 2 AAAs. So that's your lot. Hopefully the video has helped you out. I know it was a lot of talking. If you've got any other questions, things I forgot to mention, do ask it in the comments and I'll answer them best I can for you, as we are keeping the projector. So have a great day, have a great evening, whatever you choose to do after watching this, and as always, I will see you when I see you next. Ciao for now.